Good evening and welcome to the Bluffton Center for Entrepreneurs Brown Bag Discussion with Marlena Ballinger. This is Thursday, June 11th. And so whether you're watching this live and joining us for our conversation or watching a recording, welcome. And I'm going to go ahead and say hello to all of my guests. Hello, Marlena, how are you? Oh, I haven't unmuted you yet. Let me try that again. Are we battling with each other?
There we go. Hi, Paula.
Hi, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Good. I watched a video today where the participants, they did the mute, unmute like for half an hour. It was hilarious. So we're in good company. And I also have Melinda Bowden here from Promo Hits.
Hi.
Good evening. And the BCE's Executive Assistant, Nicole McConaughey. Go ahead and say, are you muted? No, you're muted.
Hello, it's nice to be here.
Good evening. All right, we did it. So I called this event turning views into clicks or into customers or into purchases or into patients, appointments, etc. I had a couple experiences recently where I felt like I hit dead ends when I was online. I wanted to buy a cake or find a pair of shoes or whatever it was. And it just felt like these businesses weren't helping me out. They were really making me struggle and work to find what I wanted. Marlena, do you, I don't know when I discovered that you had a career before the dough hook. What do you bring to your business in terms of marketing strategies?
Well, I actually have an associate's degree in multimedia, and that was early on, back in what, 1998, when I'm not going to tell you when that was, but so that is my degree. But then my first career was actually in the newspaper industry. Graphic design was my forte, and that kind of morphed into doing online web pages and social media, things like that. So, and then right before I bought the dough hook from my parents, I was a newspaper editor. So I discovered a love for writing that I didn't even know I had. And recently, with a weekly update to my customers, I write a column-like thing that I email out to everybody. So, yeah.
So what, do you have any sort of a philosophy when it comes to creating online content, whether it's for Facebook or something else?
I think my philosophy, so to speak, is I think you don't want to inundate people with a lot of things. Like, for example, my emails that I send out 2 a week, one on Tuesdays, and that has turned into my weekly updates where I write to my customers. And then I send another one out on Friday, and that Friday email highlights our fresh meal menu each week, and then any other specials. And I'll throw in a special on Tuesdays as well. And as far as Facebook and Instagram, any social media goes, I mean, I try to do something once a day or at least 3 times a week on Facebook or Instagram. I feel like if you post 5 times a day, people will just kind of get tired of it, and eventually they start, skimming over it. And the same thing with the emails as well. I mean, I get emails from some of these companies 2 and 3 times a day, and at some point you're like, okay, that's just trash. And you don't even open it. You just swipe by it and delete it right away. So I think there's a fine line in how much you send, how many you send, and how often you send them, and your content as well. I mean, your subject line for emails, you want to try to create an engaging subject line so it causes them to open that email. And, I think that kind of takes practice too, where, you don't want to write an entire book in your subject line. You just want about 5 or 10 words in there that'll catch their eye and cause them to open that email.
Right. Yeah, I have to say I've started sending myself I preview a message and then I send a test message.
Mm-hmm.
And why is it? But there's such a difference between seeing it on the, on the creation page, and then when it's in your inbox and all these other things are around it, it's like, oh no, I need to rewrite that.
Mm-hmm. Without overanalyzing it too much, but yeah.
Or the newspaper expression, what is it? Burying the lead. It's like, oh, I forgot to tell them why I'm writing, really.
Right.
What's the most important thing? I got to put that in the subject line.
Right, exactly. And one thing that I do too with every email that I send out is I send a copy to somebody else first as a preview. And that always happens to be my mom, because she's a great proofreader. So I send it to her and she'll read it, she'll proofread it, tell me any grammatical errors, but then I can also bounce it off of her and say, okay, did I get my point across? Is it too rough? Is it too plain? What can I add? So I think having a proofreader too is very important before you send it out to 5,000 people,
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Life is too short for second and third versions. Oops.
Exactly. And every once in a while, you'll have a mistake to where you have to send out a second email right away. And I just make sure to put all capital letters in the subject line, the first word, correction, or, mistake or something, just to show them that I did mean to send out the second email. Throw that first one away and look at this one. That's
a great tip. So how about this concept of calls to action? That it's not just enough to put up, I have kind of a rainbow on me, don't I? Let's see if I can, there we go.
There you go.
It's not enough to put up, like you have some beautiful steaks up right now, right? But if you say order now, it's like, oh yeah, this isn't just, I'm not just looking at a magazine, right? Or I'm supposed to order. And it's, it's funny how often I'm missing that in copy.
Mm-hmm. And I think that you have to have some kind of call to action on a business social media page, because what other reason are you posting something, like you could be telling a story and you want a link. You could be selling steaks like I do, or donuts or fresh meals or whatever. And that's what's really cool about the internet is you can put a link right there to where they can click on it and buy it right now. Or you can tell them to call you and you put your phone number there. In today's world, I find people just like to click on that link and order it and be done, and tell me when to pick it up and be done. So It's very important to put a nice, beautiful picture, a nice description with it, and then tell them what they can do to order it or to get that product or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
And yes, those steaks look delicious, don't they?
They do. Oh, yeah. I wonder how, and Melinda and Nicole weigh in on this too. I tend to look for the link, the blue ink, I call it. And then sometimes I'm inundated with hashtags instead. And it's like, no, I'm looking for your website. I'm looking for your web. Put those hashtags down at the bottom.
I think the issue I find with that is I post something to Instagram and it just automatically sends it over to Facebook. If I put the link first and then the hashtags, Facebook won't recognize it as a link.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So if I put the link last,
okay,
actually put a space in, a return with a period and then another return, That way Facebook will recognize them, because Instagram doesn't recognize the link, right? You can put a link in there, but you can't actually click on it in your Instagram
Right.
description or whatever caption. You have to put it in your, what do they call that? Your Instagram
Your bio or
bio. Yeah. Click our
Yeah.
bio or something like that. And yeah, I haven't quite figured that out, but
Okay.
but Facebook, yeah, that's why I do that. And Facebook used to, when you'd put a picture with it, it used to make it so if you click on that picture, it takes you right to that link. But they don't do that anymore. But if that link is on your website a lot of times and you just post that link on Facebook, it'll grab a picture from your website and then you can click on that and you know, that works. But yeah, that's why I put the link at the very bottom versus hashtags.
Okay. And on Facebook, I always worry that even though people can click on something on the picture to go to the website, maybe they wouldn't. And so I do like it when Facebook gives you the option of putting a button at the bottom. And I didn't used to be like big on Messenger, but now I'm like, I would rather have to spend more time on Messenger and be communicating with people than making them get on the telephone or sending me an email.
Right.
Well, a messenger is so much more instant than an email. Like an email is instant, but messenger is like straight to the person without needing a phone number, which I think is extraordinarily handy.
Yeah.
Unless you're like me and you get a messenger message and you're cutting steaks for 20 people and it takes me 3 hours to get back to you. No, but I do get a message straight away on my phone and I try to answer them as quickly as possible. But there's pros and cons to somebody messaging you on Facebook right away, just because you may get an answer back, you may not get an answer back for 2 hours. So when you're with the business, it might just be easier just to pick up the phone and call. That way you have an instant answer.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Do you find at all that you're getting messages from people out of town that might not be real people? Has that ever been a thing with a business? Like I don't know if it's called catfishing, but somebody who's not a real person, like a robot.
Yeah, I've never had that issue yet, knock on wood. I usually, if they answer me or ask me a general question, I'll answer them generally. And I've never really had any robots try to contact me that way. And it might be different when you sponsor a post. And when you sponsor a post, you can put a button on there to say, contact me or message me or whatever. And that might be where some of these robots are picking that up. So.
The worst that I have is that they're trying to contact Bluffton, Indiana or Bluffton, South Carolina. And it's like, no, that's, you know.
I have a funny story about that one time. This lady called me and she called my business by name, the Dough Hook, and she wanted ham loaf, right? And ham loaf is a Bluffton thing. So I said, yeah, we have ham loaf. And she went on to tell me that the meat market close to her would not grind it for her because something about they couldn't mix the meats. And I said, that's weird. We do it all the time, right? So we mix ham and pork or whatever. And so she went on and on and on. And she said, can I order some? And I said, absolutely. What's your name? I got her phone number. It wasn't a 419 area code, but I didn't question it because we get that all the time, 567, 614. And with cell phones now, you could have somebody with a Texas area code and they could still live in Bluffton, Ohio. So she ordered it, fine, great. She called me back the next day and she was mortified. She said, I set my husband up to get that and it said 1,000 or so many thousand miles away. And she said, no, they're in Bluffton. It was Bluffton, South Carolina. And he said, honey, that would be quite a far drive for me. I don't think I can get that. She was mortified. She felt so bad. Are you going to be able to do something with that ham loaf? I said, No problem. It'll be fine. But that was quite comical.
You should have told her it was worth the drive.
I should have. We'll see you in 2 days. It's worth the drive.
Yeah. I really want to go to Bluffton, South Carolina someday. I
Just to
really
see what
do.
it's like.
Yeah. Oh. So now how about creating menus? Do you have any advice for basic menus? Because I think I just went to your website and your menus didn't look like they had in the past. You have more links, you have more purchase options. What advice do you have to someone who's starting out in with a food business about, you know, what do you put in a menu? Is there too much? Do you worry about prices changing or not having enough pimento cheese? Or, you know, what's the wisdom on menus?
So I think since COVID, I think that has changed a lot, especially for my industry, the meat processing industry, food industry in general, especially for small businesses. It used to be you wouldn't want to post your prices online for like the price per pound of hamburger or steak or whatever. Number one, because it does change so often. And number two, I don't know. I think it's just a competition thing with other, you know, meat markets. I don't know why. It was always just a faux pas to post your prices. And since COVID hit and we had to go to curbside pickup, I was like, people need to know this, right? They're not going to shop here if they don't know how much my hamburger is or my steaks are, or, you know. So I came up with just a PDF document that was easy for me to change on my end and repost, you know, every day if I have to. And I do now because prices are changing drastically from day to day. So I just created that PDF and created a link on my web page where they could click that PDF, and it came up with an entire list of all my products. Now, as far as what they can and cannot order on my website, I really think the best advice I can give to people in my industry, the retail food industry, is your website and your brick and mortar, I think, should be two separate entities. Because for me, if somebody wanted to buy one cinnamon roll or one donut, why would you put that online, right? First of all, from a business standpoint, for them to order that 75-cent donut, pay for it with their credit card and come in and get it or whatever, because I'm not going to, I don't ship food. It cost me 35 cents for them to do that. So 35 cents minus 75 cents, I mean, I didn't make anything on that donut, right? So I think you have to kind of figure out, you know, what your markup is, what your overhead is, and maybe put larger items on your website. For example, I put my meat packages on there, or a dozen cinnamon rolls. You know, that kind of makes it worth their while to drive there. They could walk in and buy one cinnamon roll, but hey, if they order a dozen, I would drive there for a dozen cinnamon rolls. And meat packages, there's two things that people love about meat packages. Number one, they don't have to figure out what kind of meat and how much meat they're going to buy. They can look at package number 1 or package number 3 and say, okay, that looks like it would be a good fit for my family. Click, order it, and they're done. And, you know, a pound of hamburger, number one, I couldn't put that on my website because it could be 1.13 pounds, and that needs to be weighed and priced and sent out the door. So it's not something they could pay for in advance and then pick it up. So you got to think about the ease of processing your product. You have to think about making it worth your while, because there is costs associated with having a website. And you also have to make it worth the customer's while, you know, to get on there and to order it and then drive there for it. So.
Yeah, I think packages are a new thing to me, where I always felt like it's taking away my choice or something. But then when I started trying packages, it was like, oh, guess what? Now I don't have the stress of wondering, what am I going to eat this week?
Mhm.
It's covered.
Right.
And it's just, you have to you know, it's a different habit, but it's something that I'm really enjoying.
And the cool thing about my meat packages is, say you don't like sausage links, just ask me or put a little message on your order online and say, hey, can I trade those for chicken, or can I trade that for pork chops or whatever? I mean, we can customize, you know, whatever they want if they don't like it. We have and we will.
Right. Wow.
I didn't know that part.
Now you do.
I,
Oh. So do you feel that your technical skills have changed greatly? How many years have you owned the business since you purchased it from your parents?
14. So this year will be 7 years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Has the technology changed dramatically in that 7 years?
Yes, it has. Just because when I bought it from them, number one, we were using a cheap cash register. And when I say cheap, it was just this black Casio, almost like a calculator type cash register. And I think it was, I don't know, a year ago, I finally threw that out and switched over to Square, which a lot of small businesses utilize Square. I think they have the market captured in this area for small businesses and their POS systems. But the fact that we switched over to Square really changed the technology side of my business. Prior to Square, I had that black cash register, I had a website, but it really was two separate entities, and it created a headache on the backside for bookkeeping and ordering, all that stuff. And then I found Square and I switched over to that, and my POS system, my website, my credit cards, my gift cards, it's all under one umbrella, and it all plays well together, works well together, and it just takes a lot of bookkeeping aspects out of it. And it just makes life so much easier. And the really cool thing about Square too, I feel like it was kind of a God thing that I switched, because when COVID did hit, it allowed me to do curbside pickup. It allowed me to do delivery. And before that, we would have had to take the order, put the order together, call the people back, get their money over the phone with a credit card, and then they would, it's too much on the phone. Now with Square, all they had to do was, number one, they could order online, tell me when they were going to pick it up. Boom, they would come. They could call in an order. Okay, just come in 2 hours and come and pick it up. And we could take the Square iPad out to the curb and take payments right there at the curb. Or even if I had, a cell phone hotspot or whatever, I could drive to their house and take the Square with me and take payment right there at their house. So it really just made life a whole lot easier with COVID and with being able to take payments that way and keeping track of it on the back end. I mean, really nothing changed there when COVID hit. We really just changed how we carried that iPad around instead of keeping it on a stand inside the store. So, I mean, I'm thankful for Square, and I think that it kept me going, during the whole COVID pandemic, just because it made things so much easier for us. And can you imagine if I would have had that little, $100 black cash register and that separate credit card swiping machine, during all this? That would have been a complete headache.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I think sometimes the fear of the unknown stops you from adopting something different. You're used to it, you're a well-oiled machine, and it's like, wait a minute, I made life so hard for myself.
I know. And that's exactly why it took me, 3 years to adopt Square and to move into it. But I am very grateful that I did it. It just makes our life so much easier. So much easier.
Do you ladies have any questions? comments? All righty. Well, then
I
let's
do
talk
have one.
about, go
Paula, I
ahead.
have a question.
Yeah.
Okay, so when you're marketing on Facebook, do you find it to be more of a success for people coming through the door? This is prior to COVID, I would imagine. If you like list how much a donut is on your pictures, or hamburger buns or rolls or per patty, or I'm just curious, like do you notice a better return of customers when they know what they're walking into price wise?
I have not really noticed that price makes a difference. If
Okay.
you list it on Facebook or Instagram and you have a really pretty picture and it's a really good product, I think the importance is weighed on your local, you're providing high quality products. That's what they want. And I mean, if they want to know the price, they'll either comment on it or they'll send me a private message and I can, return it that way. But I've never really noticed a difference as far as putting the price on there, unless it's a sale, Nicole. Then, if I want to sell steak instead of having it priced at $12.99 a pound or whatever, and I would have put it down to $9.99 a pound, then yes, absolutely. You put the price on there, sale $9.99 a pound, regular price $12.99. Oh my, then look out.
Mhm.
Yeah. So.
And I imagine it might, in some cases, be different for, I want to say for a restaurant. Like I remember going into restaurants once or twice where I saw people look at the menu, see the prices, and have to, and be like, okay, we're out of here. Oh, didn't know what I was getting myself into, I think for a retailer, you're going to walk in and buy grocery items. That is a little different decision-making level
Mm-hmm.
Than maybe other, like I think restaurant, in terms of food businesses, a price range might be more important for a restaurant. Yeah.
Maybe that's why they do the, $1 sign or $4 signs, to kind of give you an idea.
Yeah, exactly. So let's move on to newsletters. Was that did you think about that for a long time before you started that?
I was thinking about starting a blog and writing that way, but then COVID hit and I really felt like it was important for customers to know what was going on. Things were changing so rapidly for everybody around here. Storefronts were closing. We were an essential business. We provided food to people, and I wanted people to know that they could and still come to the dough hook for their groceries. I mean, we are a small business, and people probably thought that we were going to close because of it, but I was adamant that we were going to stay open. I felt like we had to stay open for Bluffton. So that's when I decided, yeah, I think I should. Actually, the first one was by just an impulse. One night I said, I need to get this message out, and I wrote it out and I sent it on that Tuesday email. And then things changed again that week so quickly. We went from, only allowing 5 customers into the store at a time to doing only curbside pickup and delivery. So I felt like we had to get that message out. So then the next week I wrote another one. And then the third week I wrote another change. We changed hours. I don't even know, something. So I wrote that one. And in those 3 weeks, I received so much feedback from it. Just what you said, Paula, earlier. I don't know if we were recording it or not, but you said you can hear my voice in these stories.
Yeah.
And that's what everybody tells me, that I can just hear you telling these stories, Marlena. And so I just felt like it was important, at least until we got through the pandemic. Not that we're through it yet, but at least until we got to a point where we were back open and back to as normal as we could have been, that people received an update from us and knew what was going on, that they could still come to us or still get our products. We would bring it to them or whatever. And then I feel like we're back to our Tuesday through Friday, 8 to 5, and people can come into the store. So I feel like we're back to normal opening, but I received so much feedback on it. And honestly, you look at the stats behind the scenes, the click rates from that newsletter versus my Friday newsletter is doubled. So I said, I have to keep doing this, right? So I will. I don't know what it's going to turn into, what I'm going to talk about, but on Monday night at 5 o'clock, I think to myself, I need to write some. So I just write it. And I don't know if it's a hidden talent that I never knew I had, but when I was the editor of the Putnam County Sentinel, I wrote a column every week. And honestly, I think by the end, that's why people were buying that newspaper, to read my column. I don't know what it is. I don't know why my writing is so engaging. I just do it, and it just turns that way. So, but seriously though, I think it's a great way to get your message out and to reassure your customers that, you know, what you're doing, and that you're still going to be there. You can still help them. And even now, beef prices, we all know, are so high that I think honesty and transparency is important to your customers, and telling them, okay, you know, I'm seeing at the feedlots, the prices are going back down, and the processing plants are back to 95%. And, you know, it's coming. Prices are going to come down. So, I mean, yeah, it may cost me 5 pounds of hamburger this week because people are going to wait until next week. But I think that long term, that builds more integrity for your business than just saying, okay, that $10.99 is what it's going to be for 4 weeks, you know? So I've always said that honesty and transparency is the best answer and the key to, you know, being successful. So, and that's one way you can do it, through those newsletters.
Right.
I really
Yeah,
found that I'm terribly sorry, but I found that the newsletters gave me a connection to you when I couldn't go into the store. And so when everybody was disengaging, I really enjoyed them. So that was good.
And honestly, Nicole, that is one of the biggest things that I missed when my lobby was closed, was not being able to engage with my customers. Yeah, I could go out on the curb and talk to them, but there was so much happening on the inside that didn't happen a lot for me. And, you know, I could be busy back at my cutting table or in my office or whatever, and a customer can come in and we can, you know, talk and interact that way. So that was hard for me, to close the lobby and not interact with my customers the way that I used to do. So thank you for saying that. I didn't think about that. I'm glad that helped.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that when you go to an independent shop like the Dohook Meat Market, relationships are established. I mean, sure, you can develop loyalty. Like, I don't know, I suppose I've gotten Crest toothpaste for 1,000,000 years, and why? I don't know. There are probably other good toothpastes out there, but when you choose an independent business, it is because of the relationships you develop, and you know that the store is there because that owner wants to do, you know, is dedicated to this, and they're going to do their utmost for you. So yeah, I think that's exactly right, Paula, and I think that, you know, when people come in, just stop in, they don't even buy anything, they just want to stop in and say hello, you know, that's part of it. And, you know, it's all about getting them through your front door, right? So you put on a smile and you be nice to people, and again, honest and transparent with people, and, you know, you build a trust with them, and that helps. It helps. So yeah.
Last year when the, I think it was, well, maybe now it's been a year and a half ago, when the tariffs were just starting for between China and the United States. I worried about that for us because it was the vast majority of what we have in the promotional products industry comes from China, and prices were going up, and they were changing sometimes daily, especially right at the beginning, because people were still trying to figure out what all the tariffs exactly were. You know, there's something new thrown on all the time, or raised at the last minute, or, you know, it's already on the boat headed over, so is that going to change once it comes? And there was just so many different changes and hard to know, and not everyone really was up to date on that there were tariffs and that there really had always been tariffs, but previously they were just part of the price, and we didn't really think about it. But then when the tariffs were raised, that changed everything. And I felt the same way. I felt like I have to be in touch with my customers, because not everyone listens to the evening news or reads the newspaper or whatever. And so they didn't know why prices were going up. You know, I just bought this last week and it was this much, and now I want more. And how is that changing? Because in our industry, it used to be that prices stayed the same for the whole year. Well, you know, the tariffs just changed all of that. And I don't know that we will see that stay steady ever again, because, I mean, the tariffs kind of settled down a little bit, and then now here we are with the pandemic, and boy, have things changed with that as well. So it's been good, but it's been a while since I've written a letter, so that's good. Good thought. I should maybe write another letter. But I was mailing mine out. Maybe I'll just email them out.
There you go. It's interesting though, Paula, or Melinda, to know all the variables that go into your products, you know, just like with meat. You know, I think COVID has opened everybody's eyes a little bit that, yeah, those processing plants, they affect the price a little bit, you know, and when people get sick and can't work, or, I mean, it affects that price. And there's so many variables, especially with animals and farming and meat processing and all that good stuff. So it's interesting.
So for our entrepreneurs, okay, I'm going to send an email. Talk to me a little bit about growing your mailing lists.
So I use MailChimp. They host my email, my mailing list, and all that. And as far as growing them, there's several different ways that I did it. I started a rewards club, for example, and in order to get into that, they had to give me their name and their email. That was it. And for the people that join my mailing list, when they join, they get their first email is for a free donut. So if they get something in return for joining your mailing list, I think that really helps. For a brick and mortar store, if you get your employees to ask every single person that they wait on that day, hey, are you part of our mailing list? And if they say no, then you hand them a piece of paper that lets them put their name, email on there. And
I lost. Did you guys lose that last sentence?
You could do it that way.
I didn't hear that last sentence.
About having your employees ask every single person.
Right after that.
And when they say, if you ask them if they're part of your mailing list, if they say no, you can hand them a piece of paper that lets them put their name, address. I collect birthdays too, because then you can send them, another automatic email on their birthday. And then you can also use your social media pages too. You send out a blast once a month that says, are you part of my mailing list? And then you can put a link right there to where they can click on it and sign up for that. You can put a button on your Facebook page that allows them to sign up, on your web page that allows them to sign up. So, and I feel like with social media, you could post something now and you could post the same thing 3 hours later and have a completely different audience. So I'm not saying to post stuff every 3 hours, but if you put a post on there about your mailing list and then next week do it again on a different day at a different time, it really depends.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, I could say, hey, do you want a free donut? Sign up for my mailing list. You would not believe how many people that brings in. So there's several different ways you can get people. You can have a drawing in your store and they have to provide their name and email and put it in a bucket and take all those little pieces of paper and enter them onto your mailing list. So
Yeah, and I do think it's one of those pandemic pivot. Pivot is the big word. Pivot. Something I might not have imagined doing 4 months ago. I'm hearing great things about newsletters, and you know, if your social circle is saying, "Wow, I really love that newsletter from blah blah business," if they're talking about it in casual conversation, it's like that really meant something to them.
absolutely.
So, yeah, yeah,
Absolutely.
that's great. Because really, I mean, I think food has gotten a lot of us through this struggle. Spending time cooking with your family, you know, thinking about, okay, where am I going to spend my money? You know, I'm not going to go as many places now.
Mm-hmm.
Where I go is more important.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, yeah. Yep, I definitely heard one. And I have to say, I heard one of those from one of our neighboring communities, that the dough hook saved me, was
Aw.
what my friend said. So,
That's
yeah,
awesome. I love hearing that.
yeah. Any further tips or questions for our new entrepreneurs? That's my, you know, primary audience. People who are just starting, or people who are revitalizing their business, looking for ways to strengthen their business. Any last tips for them?
I mean, I think it's important, you know, to learn from what you do, you know. So just if you have an idea of promoting on social media, just try it, you know, put stuff out there. And the more you do it, I think the easier it gets and the better you'll get. And interacting with your customers is important. And you can do that through social media. When somebody puts a comment on your Facebook post, just put a simple reply back to them. Hey, thank you. Or, yeah, we think so too. Or a simple like, you know. I think, just like I said, being transparent and honest, and building a relationship with your customers, with your audience, I think that's important. And that's how you build likes in Facebook land, and can, you know, get your point across. And sponsoring your post quite a bit too. Not quite a bit, but I try to sponsor a post once a week. And you may only need to spend $5 on it, right? And that Facebook, for some reason, broadens the audience on that and blast it out there to more people when you sponsor it. I guess when you throw money at Facebook, they spread your message a little bit further. But yeah, I think it's the only way to learn it is to do it. So
Right. I think that maybe we hit sort of a sweet spot. If you were in a huge metropolitan area and you spent $5, it could go up like a puff of smoke.
mm-hmm.
But in our market, you can spend $5 and you can get hundreds of views and clicks because you spend $5. And nothing else costs $5 anymore.
Not for advertising, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Great. Wow. Well, thank you so much for joining me. This is our regular Thursday evening spot. The BCE is talking with folks Wednesdays at noon and Thursday evenings at 6. We call it coffee hours and brown bag events because that's what they used to be. People used to bring their lunch and we'd talk and eat at the same time. We'd drink coffee. But I'm really thrilled because I think that this is going to help us reach out to, we want to help people, entrepreneurs in all of Putnam County, all of Allen County, all of Hardin, and all of Hancock County. So if we can reach them through these online meetings, I'm thrilled. And thank you all for joining me tonight. And I hope you'll be back and we'll come up with a new topic. And we'll be talking again soon.
Great. Thank you for having me, Paula. I was really excited when you asked me to do this with you and very honored. So thank you.
Oh, thank you very much. Good night, ladies, and I'll talk to you soon.
All right.